Now we are pleased to welcome Kyle Vamvouris, CEO of Voris, to speak with us today. Kyle is an expert in sales strategies and will share his insights on using sales metrics to improve cold outreach. Kyle, mic to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Olivia. Well, I'm excited to jump in, everybody. We are going to be talking about how to be more data driven with our cold outreach. Ultimately, what I want you to get away from this is a clear framework that you can use to improve your cold outreach so it gets better over time, which a lot of organizations don't experience. Before I jump in here, and while I'm sharing my screen, I'd love to see in the chat if you can type in how you feel your cold outreach is doing on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being awful or we're not doing it, 5 being it's going incredible. I'd love to see where you feel you land. And then that'll help give me some context as I walk you through on how you can actually go about using data to help you fix it. So while you're typing that in, I'm going to share my screen here. All righty, here we go. So, okay, we got a 3.5 and 8 on a scale from 1 to 5. You're doing incredible. 4, 3.5, 3. Great. Another 3. Okay, awesome. So you feel like you're doing it okay. Well, this is going to be perfect. We have 1 in here. What you're going to find is that data will be the difference between having an okay cold outreach approach and having a fantastic one. Because like I said earlier, your cold outreach should be getting better over time. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm seeing we have some 2s come in here, 2 and 3. Okay, great. Let's jump right in and let's start talking about how to use metrics to improve cold outreach. Before I do, let me give you 3 bullets on who I am for those of you who just have no idea and you've never seen my content before. My name is Kyle. That's a good place to start, I think. I've worked with over 70 B2B software and service companies, helping them build a repeatable sales process. What you'll learn about me is I take a very data-driven approach when it comes to building repeatable sales processes. I've written 3 Amazon best-selling books. One's on cold outreach called Cold to Committed. The other one is on how to lead sales development teams. That's called the Sales Development Framework. And then the third and most recent one is how to build a repeatable sales process called 16 Steps to Repeatable Sales. I've also helped our clients sell over 100 million in software and services. Of our venture-backed customers we've worked with, they've raised over 280 million. And I've personally trained over 1,000 salespeople. I started as an SDR. I've been in just about every position in sales you can. So I've been on the front lines trying to close deals. I've also been in board meetings while things are going great, and I've been in board meetings while things are going definitely not great. So I have a lot of context when it comes to running these organizations at a pretty large scale. Now, there's 3 poisons that I see time and time again that absolutely destroy sales teams. I call it the 3 poisons of sales teams. You need the context of these 3 poisons because building a function to do your cold outreach requires you to avoid these at all costs. And the first one is reps. The individual reps on the team don't know what they have to do to be successful. They're sitting in the seat. And if there some of you reps, if you're on this right now, go ahead and type in the chat if you've ever felt like this, where you just don't know what you have to do on a daily basis to actually hit your quota. And this can become really disheartening for a rep and for leadership, because the second poison is leadership doesn't know how to use the data that they're getting from that team, those metrics, to help the team succeed. So they don't know, are we not succeeding because of the rep? Is it us? Is it our lead list? Is it our marketing? Is it our messaging, how we're positioning ourselves? Why are we not succeeding? And that becomes very difficult when you don't know why you're not getting the traction that you need to get. And then finally, the third poison is there's a culture where poor performance is tolerated. Because you don't know why things aren't going as well as you'd like them to go, it's very difficult to turn things around, and you start accepting the performance, which isn't up to the standard you need it to be. And I'm not saying that this is something super bad that you are doing. You just don't have the clarity you need in order to hold the team accountable to what you need to hold them accountable to, because there could be a lot of things that aren't going well. So luckily, we can get through those and build something that I call an anti-fragile sales team. What I just showed you, those 3 poisons, that's a fragile sales team. If you ever met a founder who had a sales team that was going well, then their top rep leaves and all of a sudden things are going terrible, that's a fragile sales team. A team where things are going great and all of a sudden there's a challenge and then we just can't hit our number anymore and it takes them forever to try to figure out how to get through that. That's a fragile sales team. An anti-fragile sales team doesn't collapse when it encounters challenges. It actually improves. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do today, because the data, the metrics is what's going to guide you to building this. All right. So my promise is by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to use sales data to improve your sales team's performance. Your cold outreach is going to get a lot better by having this context. 3 core principles I want you to understand at a high level, and then we're going to dive into each one of them. The first is you need a clear picture of what the ideal state looks like. What do I want the world of my cold outreach to look like? You need that vision. The next, you need to measure what matters. So you have to measure everything that's happening, the activities that are taking place, how many calls, how many emails, how many LinkedIn messages, the results of those activities, how many appointments are we booking, all the way to the deals that close. You have to measure everything because you're going to use that data. And then finally, you need to iterate with the data. So you constantly repeat this process of trying different things, measuring the impact of those things, systematizing what works, and repeating that process over and over again. So let's start with creating your ideal state. We're going to use what I call the sales team calculator. This is a growth model that I use to figure out what does a sales team need to look like and what do they need to do. So it's called the sales team calculator. If you'd like this, if you can comment that you want a copy of this, that would be great. And I'll make sure I share the link at the end of this presentation. Okay, cool. So we're zoomed in here. Let me go through an example. I have a blank version for you, but I'm going to go through an example. A company gave me this as their plan. They had just raised $20 million and they were like, hey, this is my plan for making things work. It's like, okay, great. Let's look at it. They told the board our revenue target was $2 million. We're going to build a sales team. We're going to add 2 million in ARR over the next 12 months. Our close percentage right now is 18%. They had a $15,000 average contract value or annual contract value. Their show rate was 80%. So 80% of the meetings that they book actually showed up. The qualified rate was 80%. So 80% of the ones that showed up actually qualified as worthy of being in the pipeline. And then we had 80,000 is what we were paying SDRs when they hit their quota. So there was a base plus a salary, variable commission. And then AE was 150 base plus variable compensation. Okay, so those are their numbers that they gave me. And then they told me their plan. They said, hey, look, I'm going to hire 1 SDR, 1 AE. I'm going to hire one on month 4, we're hiring another SDR, another AE. And then month 6, we're going to hire another SDR, another AE. This is a pretty common plan where folks are like, oh, we're just going to hire 1 and 1. Or they'll just hire 1 or 2 people in one team. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. So I don't want you to get caught up on what the right approach is for you. I'm going to talk a little bit through that in a minute, and we'll do some Q&A if you have specific questions. But I just want you to understand what this looks like, because what we're doing here is we're modeling out their team size. We're putting in how many activities we're expecting from the team on a monthly basis. So each SDR needs to do 2,000 activities per month, which is 100 a day. Then the AEs have to do some of their own prospecting as well, 800 a month. And then our activity to demo rate, these are the projections, is 0.3% all the way up, and it ramps here, 0.3, 0.5, 0.6, and then 1%, all the way up to 1%. Now, 1%, I do 100 activities, I book 1 appointment. That's what we're getting to. So great, you build out what the ideal state looks like. And in their case, they built this out with the goal of hitting $2 million. Well, if we scroll over here, you'll see this plan only hits $1.2 million. I'm no expert, but 1.2 million is not 2 million. So we're not going to hit the number, and it's not working on paper. And guess what? If it doesn't work on paper, it's definitely not working in real life. So we need to get it to work on paper. Now, just because it works on paper doesn't mean that it's going to work in real life either, but we need to at least get the math to work. And if we can't do that, man, we're lost. So math wasn't working. So we needed to rebuild this plan. So let me show you how we rebuilt it. Here's the revised version. I want to highlight a couple of things to you. I made no changes to their assumptions. See, these assumptions are exactly the same. I'm switching between tabs here. I also didn't make any changes to the activity and the activity to demo calculations here or assumptions. Boom, look, they're exactly the same. Here's what I did. Instead of hiring 1 and 1, we hired 2 and 2. So 2 SDRs and 2 AEs. This company raised like $20 million, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere around $20 million. Big part of that was to build this team. We need to invest $2 million in new ARR. That's a big number. You're in the big leagues. We need to hire, right? So hire 2 and 2. I love hiring 2s, by the way. And then in month 3, we added 2 SDRs, not AEs, no AE hire. Month 6, we hire another SDR and another AE. So that gets us to a 5 and a 3. Guess what happens when we did this? You look at the bottom right, kept all assumptions the same, just hired at more people at a different frequency, and we hit that $2 million target. Well, great. But I'm not claiming to be a genius, because I'm sure a lot of you are watching this and saying, well, yeah, dude, of course you did. You hired way more people and faster. You hired 8 people instead of 6, and you hired them a lot earlier. So you're spending a lot more money. Here's where it gets interesting. If you look at example 1 here, if we scroll to the bottom, you're going to see this is our cost of sale percentage. So cost of sale here, I'm just going to go to the last month, 40%. So that means 40% of the revenue this team generates just goes to paying their salary and commission. Doesn't include payroll tax, doesn't include software spend, servicing the customer, whatever it is. Doesn't include any of that stuff, just base salary plus commission on these sales. 40% of that revenue is going to the sales function. Well, what about in the new example where we hired more people and we hired them faster? It's 33%. It actually went down. So how does that happen? How do we hire more people and faster, but we spend less per sale? The answer is rep distribution. It's a different team design. What we did was we hired more SDRs. We pay SDRs less than we pay account executives. We get more meetings for the account executives so they can focus more on closing. This is the efficiency that you get when you split the team. Now, I'm not saying everyone should split the team. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is in this case, that distribution of SDR and AE makes a big difference, and you need to be thoughtful of those things. So again, first step here, you need to model this out for yourself so you know what the ideal state is. So you know, hey, I need to get to a 1% activity to demo rate or whatever you need the percentage to be in order to hit the revenue target that you're setting for the team. So that's the first step here. So let's go back to our presentation. So that was ideal state. Now it's about measuring what matters. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to break down the metrics you need to be tracking and how to identify which metric you need to focus on improving. So let's go to my trusty sales metrics analyzer. I can give you this as well. Just comment, let me know. Okay, so what do you need to be measuring? And just in the sake of time, I'm going to go a little bit quicker here. Activities, cold calls, cold email, LinkedIn messages. All of our activities need to be tracked. Engagements, people who answer the phone, people who reply to an email, people who reply on LinkedIn. Appointments, how many appointments did we set per channel? Then deal stage 1, of the appointments we booked, how many of them actually made it to deal stage 1? How many of them made it to deal stage 2? How many of them made it to deal stage 3? You'll have your own names for these stages, and you might have more than 3. You need to be tracking all of them. And then how many of them made it to deal stage 1? When you're tracking all of that, what you can then do is see what is our percent between each. So it looks like 10% of our activities resulted in engagement. But of those engagements, those email replies, those LinkedIn replies, cold call, people who answered the phones, right? That's an engagement. Only 3.1 of them actually lead to an appointment. So if this is my team, I'm going, gosh, we need to get a lot better on our cold call conversations or our email messaging, because we're just not converting very many of the people who actually reply to us. So they've seen our messaging, they've heard our messaging, but it's not resonating with them. So that's where I would focus for this. And you create a hypothesis around that. And you say, hey, we're going to make these changes and we're going to measure the impact on the engagement percentage, right? Engagement to appointment. Okay, great. Now we can actually start making some progress, because we're not going to be focused on our connect rate. We're not going to be focused down the line, because we know the actual problem is our engagement to appointment rate. So then we have appointments to deal stage 1, 76%. And then we have deal stage 1 to deal stage 2 at 46.2%. That means about 54% of deals drop off between deal stage 1 and deal stage 2. Gosh, that's a lot. Why? Why is it happening? Is it a qualification issue? Maybe we need to be reaching out to more qualified deals. Maybe it's the sales rep. They're not booking the next meeting on the meeting with the prospect, right? So you need to start to think, why could this number be what it is now? And then work to improve that metric. That's really the key here. So in this case here, we might train all of the AEs to not book the next meeting over email, and instead book the next call on the call with the prospect. We might improve our follow-up process so we have less people not showing up to the next meeting. That's how you would work through this. And again, you pick how you plan on improving the metric, you roll it out to the team, and you measure the results. And then the final thing I'll leave you with when you have all of these metrics is you need to be looking at this at a team level, but also look at it on an individual level. See what the reps individually are doing with their metrics. Because what you might find is Sarah has a really high engagement to appointment rate on cold calls, a low one on email. And then James is the inverse. His cold call conversion is very low, but his email is really high. You can learn from the top performers in specific metrics and roll out their process to the rest of the team to lift, what is a high tides lift all boats? Like you want to lift everybody up by systematizing what's working. You can only do that if you can identify why it's working. And you can only identify why it's working by knowing it works in the first place by tracking this stuff. Okay. So it's very important that you have these metrics. All right. Well, let's tie this all into a bow here. Go back to my deck. Okay, why does this all work? A couple of reasons. One is you're going to understand exactly where the bottlenecks are. The data sets you free here because it says, hey, this is preventing us from hitting the numbers that we need to hit. So you're going to be able to identify exactly where the bottlenecks are. You'll have a clear idea of your team's performance at each stage of your entire process, whether it's cold email, cold LinkedIn, cold calling, whatever it is. You're going to know what the team's performance is, and you can even take that to the individual level. And then finally, you'll get a specific area to try and optimize. So that's why it works. Before I open up for Q&A, I think we have a few minutes. Maybe we can take a question here. I did put together a nice little bundle for you. It includes the Sales Team Moneyball bundle, which is like a 17 video training where I walk through how to be more data-driven with your sales organizations. A sales metrics training. This is a presentation I did to 3 to 20 million ARR software companies on how to use metrics to improve their sales process. And I'm also giving you AE fundamentals and SDR fundamentals. These are like 40 lesson courses on how to be a successful AE and a successful SDR. I will share the link here. And let's try and answer one question. Olivia, how much time do I have left? I think 2 minutes.
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, we still have a few minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, let's see. If somebody has a question, please type it in and let me stop sharing and I'll grab the links to these so you have it.
Yeah, I think our chat just exploded asking for the copies.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, let me get these links. Okay, I'm kind of... And if you guys DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, I can also grab them for you. But let me give you the calculator. I accidentally X'd out of the other one. So just DM me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. Okay, we got a question come in here. When utilizing CRMs, how can you analyze this data in HubSpot or Salesforce? A couple of things on this and I'll go real quick here. First of all, you need to be tracking all of this in the CRM. So it's as simple as making sure that calls are being logged there, emails are being logged there, call outcome is being logged, and then you're tracking lead statuses. Outside of that, what I want to make sure that everyone takes away here is I like manually tracking the SDR's activities on a daily basis. At the end of the day, I want the SDRs going to a dashboard in the CRM, writing out how many calls they made in a spreadsheet, how many people answered the phone, how many emails they sent, how many people answered or replied to an email, how many LinkedIn messages you sent, how many people replied, how many meetings did you book, how many meetings were scheduled for that day, and how many meetings actually showed up. At the end of every day, they're doing that. It takes them 5 minutes. And the reason why I want that is two things. One, I can do a bunch of cool calculations in Excel quickly, and I'm not limited to having to work through a tool. Even though I think you should build this out in your CRM too. The second reason is why you do this, even if it is in your CRM. The second reason is it gets the reps to own their data. Your conversations with your reps should be around, here are your metrics. Here's what's preventing you from hitting the income goals that you have. Let's talk about how we can fix this metric together. When you have the data and the reps take ownership of that data, it has a huge impact on their performance because it demystifies the entire thing. So use the data and have them manually fill it out. I have an SDR tracking sheet that I have to pull, again, DM me like SDR tracking sheet or something, or reply. Just DM me something so I know it's from this thing, and I will send you the SDR tracking sheet too, and anything that you want. I only grabbed the link to the calculator because I had it ready, but feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'll send it your way. I think that's it.
That's it. I thank you, and thank you personally for joining this event. Kyle, your input, your insights, and basically those templates and calculators, it feels like a presence for everyone, because it just helps to, as you mentioned, demystify the whole process. And that's so much important to bring this
it doesn't have
clarity
to be
to everyone.
complicated, but you have to
Sure.
look at the data. That's so many sales teams run around blind because sales is a very emotional part of the org, and they have its own little subculture, right? So we go, oh, we need more training. We need more this. Let's change the script, right? And it's just, okay, fine. I'm totally okay to do that. But if we have our eyes closed and we're throwing darts, how are we going to hit the board? We're not. The data takes that blindfold off, and you can see exactly where the bullseye is, and you can make bets on where to throw it to try to hit that bullseye. And you need that visibility, and it doesn't have to be complicated. I just showed you a very simple way of doing it. And if you want to get crazy and super nerdy, we can, but at least do the basics, because it's going to help you so much when it comes to systematizing your process.
Great advice. From everyone on this event and from this chat, thank you so much, Kyle. Everyone, please DM Kyle on all those templates and calculators and cheat sheets, everything that can help you build your cold outreach team and improve the process. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Thanks for having me. Talk soon, everybody.
And thank you all for joining us today and for sticking with us till the end. We really hope you've enjoyed the event and been able to get a few ideas to implement within your team. We will be sending the links to replays and all the materials that were shown during this event. So the slides, hopefully the materials from Kyle, and those that Blunt mentioned in his previous presentation. So please stay tuned and keep an eye on the email. Thank you.